Hi everybody, it's Stephanie here. I'm wondering how it's going with noticing where the energy is leaking. Something that I wanted to share with you about why we also want to be able to manage our energy is because I think that if we tend to be very sensitive to energy, there's a tendency to also avoid situations and people and relationships. And I have experienced that. And I find that we miss out at times when we don't know how to see where our energy is leaking and create boundaries, that sometimes we end up maybe feeling lonely or feeling that life is more of a struggle than it needs to be. So I did want to mention that. So this week I want to talk to you about some protections. And in my practices, in my shamanic practices, in my yoga practices, one of the best things that I do for myself to protect my energy is to create a bubble of light around my body. So it's this practice where I visualize myself, and then I visualize a beautiful, warm, glowing white light around my energy field, around my physical body. And as I visualize that, I imagine that any energy that's coming toward me that is maybe heavy or dark gets transmuted or changed into light energy. And it's a practice, and as with all practices, it takes a little bit of time, but I have found it to be very effective. When I do that, I also realize that I'm able to create a physical boundary or physical protection, in that if I'm entering a space or I'm in a dialogue with somebody, that when I visualize this bubble of light around me, sometimes I find myself taking a literal step back, not being so physically close to people. So it's this place of really being aware of how we're showing up and how we are not only sending energy out, but also how we're receiving other people's. So as I've talked about in the past few weeks with this practice of meditation, when we come from a place of being rooted and grounded, and when we're managing our energy and we're noticing the places where it's leaking and where we're sensitive, that brings us an awareness so that when we enter into situations that are challenging, that we're able to use these protections. So the visualization of the bubble of light is a real powerful one. A shamanic teacher once told me the most powerful form of protection is love, and I agree. And being human, I know, as you probably do too, that sometimes that's a struggle. So as much as I'd like to be loving all the time with everyone, particularly the challenging people, I am human, and sometimes I have bad days. So something about protections that's important to recognize is that there are times when we're more susceptible to absorb other people's energy. So in addition to, not being grounded and not having some sort of a consistent meditation practice, the other times when we're susceptible to other people's energy, absorbing other people's energy, being affected by it, other people kind of zapping our energy, is when we're tired, when we're stressed, if we're not eating well. Also situations where maybe we're using illicit, drugs or alcohol, our energy, it's much, much easier for our energy to get zapped and for things to come into our energy field that we're not aware of. So things, again, not to be judgmental about, but to be mindful of. Because as we continue on this journey to thrive in our life and to really manage our energy, we want to make sure that we are being conscious of the situations that trigger us, and that we're being responsible for the energy that we bring, right? So I have this saying at the sanctuary that I am responsible for the energy that I bring into that space. And there are times when, as I've said to you before, where I have to go into the office and I close the door because perhaps my energy isn't in a space that I feel comfortable with, and I need to work through that. So honoring where you are, continuing with the practices of meditation, continuing with the observation of noticing where the energy may be leaking, noticing where you need to, again, firm up those boundaries or loosen those boundaries, and then creating that bubble of light for yourself and trying it for 7 days and seeing, no matter how you're feeling when you wake up in the morning, using that imagery and think about it as you move throughout your day and notice again what happens. So as always, I thank you for listening. I hope you're finding this information helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always email me at stephanie@bronxvillewellness.com. Talk with you next week. Namaste.